speaking of the rather well-to-do, there is some rumblings of discontent in the annex. And some folks like Galen West and Margaret Atwood have aligned themselves against a developer there who's planning an 8-story condominium building, 16 condo units, 30 parking spots, a 2-level garage. This is on Davenport, south of DuPont. So it's on the north end of the annex, kinda. Admiral Road is where it is, if you know the neighborhood. It's a leafy neighborhood, and the occasional U of T frat house finds its way in there and despoils the neighborhood. But other than that, they say now this is really going to change things with its hulking presence. Let me ask you, Elissa, sometimes, neighborhoods do have to change out of necessity, and there is a lack of supply of housing, and a lot of people pay lip service to wanting to increase that supply, except when it's in their backyard, I suppose.
I suppose so, and I think that the way this neighborhood association, or this very quickly makeshift association, has come out with this is that, well, let's get all our high-profile neighbors, and, trust me, the word hulking obviously was probably written by Margaret Atwood. I mean, I have never heard a neighborhood association called a development hulking before.
It looms over their backyard.
It looms. I'm sure that all the depositions and everything going up against this will be very well written and articulate and a pleasure to read. But, so then they get Galen Weston and then they get some other muckety-muck. So it certainly doesn't help their cause, to be quite honest. And honestly, the rest of us are all subject to this, and they have every right as a homeowner to object to it, but it doesn't mean that they should stand in the way of progress.
All right. Does it smack of elitism to you, Michael Diamond?
So I live about a 2-minute walk from this location and $2 million away from, Margaret Atwood's house. But
to be clear,
let's be clear. This condo development would look on the other side from their backyards a Esso car wash. This is not changing the nature of any street or any community. It would fit in very well, and the additional housing is needed, and I think it worked quite well. There's going to be another one put in at Bedford and Davenport, and the more the merrier.
All right, so they're sounding like a bunch of smug, snooty elites.
Absolutely.
Kevin?
They're not NIMBYs, they're NIMMYs. It's the not in my mansion yard.
Did you just think of that?
I know, it's hard to believe, eh?
Margaret Atwood wrote that.
There was no looming or hulking in it.
No, her writing will be a little bit overwrought and socialistic. I mean, if anything, maybe we should mandate a safe injection site in the Syrian pop-up tent city in their backyards as compensation for their NIMBY approach.
We need
on
a Dollarama there, a Dollarama and an express subway.
This is the new urban developer of the Upper Annex, Michael Diamond.
It's ironic that these rich socialists, after they finish sipping their champagne, are the first people to trot out the needs for mixed housing and social housing, etc.
As long
as it isn't in their mansion neighborhood.
All right. Well, one more who decried elitism, Doug Ford, seems like he's going to run for mayor now. What do you guys think his prospects are? Because a most recent Forum Research poll had him within striking distance of John Tory, whereas, before he was, I think, earlier in the summer, late spring, 30 points back. Now he's within the margin of error. How somebody who hasn't even announced could draw that close is an interesting phenomenon. Why do you suppose that is? Is it disaffection towards Tory and his policies? Or people looking through a lens, maybe sepia tinged, that Doug Ford, has more to recommend them than maybe he would when he would be in the chair? What do you say, Elissa?
I think that his persona, it's really well crafted, and people do know what Doug Ford stands for. And I was thinking on the way down when you were talking about this, and I said, well, there goes the honeymoon. So, yes, John Tory has had his issues, but Doug Ford is now going to become a very, very vocal thorn in his side. He's been sitting there very quietly, and, we all know what he would be thinking about in certain things, but he's kept very quiet. And now I think that the gloves are going to be off. There'll be this big announcement at the annual Ford barbecue, and then we will be back into recreating an ongoing legacy of Fordism.
Ford Nation. Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, where do you feel that Tory would be vulnerable, that Doug Ford could actually make political capital, Michael Diamond?
On his ability, on his accomplishments in office. I think Doug can turn back and say, we cut these taxes, we cut these spending, and everything with Ford. And I was director of operations on Rob's first campaign for mayor, the one he won. But there's definitely a craftful use of language that may or may not be relevant to the truth in all cases. So Doug can paint a very artful picture of just John Tory's lack of accomplishment. What Tory's going to be up against is, Olivia Chow was a very weak candidate from the left. If you see someone like Jen Keesmaat get in, I have no doubt that you'll see a lot of people on the left who voted for John Tory to stop Doug Ford, defect back to a left-wing candidate, and some of the people on the right who went to John thinking, he's a consensus conservative I can get behind, will be disappointed that he's done nothing in their eyes and fall back with Doug, that he can make up that 30,000 odd votes that he lost by last time.
Jennifer Keesmaat announced she's stepping down after 5 years, September 29th. You think it's to position herself to take a run at the mayor?
I think she'd be a great candidate from the left for mayor of Toronto.
Give you a last word, Kevin Gaudet.
I think she's going to go for the provincial seat now that Glenn Murray has resigned, although she would make an interesting, compelling left-wing candidate, and that's Tory's challenge is he has done nothing center, right, or right, and that whole area of the spectrum is open. And if he's challenged by a credible candidate on the left, there's nothing left for him because he's got zero accomplishments. So he's open on both flanks.
All right. Hey, great discussion on so many matters. Topics worthy of discussion. That's why we call it that. Michael Diamond, Kevin Gaudet, Elissa Freeman, thank you all.
Thank you, John.